The cold clang of the metal doors echoed through the dimly lit hallway as Maya's heart raced. She had never felt fear like this before. Her hands trembled as she clutched her bag tighter, trying to steady her breathing. The stench of sweat and rust filled her nose, making her stomach churn. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to be here. But now, standing at the entrance of the male prison block, she realized her nightmare had only just begun at it. All started when Maya, a young social worker, volunteered to assist in a rehabilitation program at the city's high-security prison. She believed in second chances, in helping people turn their lives around. But what she didn't know was that her trust in people would soon be her greatest mistake. Among the guards, one man, Officer Grant, had always given her an uneasy feeling. His eyes lingered too long, his smirk too sharp, as if he knew something. She didn't. She brushed it off, thinking maybe she was overreacting. After all, she was here to do good, but on this particular day, things felt off. The corridors were unusually quiet. The usual clamor of voices and shuffling footsteps was gone, replaced by an eerie silence. As Maya followed Officer Grant deeper into the prison, her instincts screamed at her to turn back. "Why are we going this way?" she asked, trying to keep her voice calm. Grant didn't answer. He just kept walking, his boots hitting the floor with heavy thuds. When they reached a massive steel door, he finally stopped and turned to her with a chilling smile. "This is where you'll be working today," he said. Before Maya could protest, the door swung open, and a blast of warm, stale air hit her face. She froze. On the other side of the door was not the classroom she was expecting, but a block filled with male inmates. Their eyes shot up at the sound of the door opening, and a heavy silence fell over the room as they spotted her. "Wait, this isn't right," Maya stammered, stepping back. "This isn't the rehabilitation wing." But Grant shoved her forward, and before she could react, the door slammed shut behind her. The loud click of the lock sent a shiver down her spine. She pounded on the door, her voice breaking as she shouted for him to open it. But all she heard was his laughter fading away down the hall. Inside the block, the men slowly began to rise to their feet. Some stared at her with curiosity, others with cold, unreadable expressions. Maya backed up until her shoulders hit the cold concrete wall. Her mind raced for an escape, but there was none. One of the inmates, a tall man with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward. "What's a woman doing here?" he said, his voice deep and rough. I don't know," Maya replied, her voice barely a whisper. "It's a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here." The man smirked. "A mistake, huh? Looks like you're on the wrong side of the bars now." As the men slowly closed in, Maya's breathing quickened. Her palms were slick with sweat, and her heart hammered in her chest. She had no idea how she would survive this, but then, from the corner of her eye, she noticed another inmate who hadn't moved. He sat on his bunk, arms folded, watching silently. There was something different about him. Unlike the others, his gaze wasn't filled with menace, it was calculating, almost protective. "Stay back," he suddenly barked at the other inmates. His voice carried a weight that made everyone pause. The men hesitated. "Why should we?" the scarred man growled. "Because if you touch her, you're going through me first," the quiet inmate said, rising to his full height. He was taller than she expected, his frame lean but strong. His eyes, sharp and piercing, were fixed on her like he was trying to figure her out. "Who are you?" Maya asked, her voice trembling. "Name's Jace," he said simply. "And if you want to get out of here alive, you're going to have to trust me." Before Maya could respond, a loud banging echoed from the upper level of the block. Another group of inmates appeared, and the tension in the room thickened. The men exchanged glances, and Maya realized whatever was about to happen was far from over. Her stomach dropped as Jace stepped in front of her like a shield. "You really picked the wrong prison to mess around in," he muttered. "What do you mean?" Maya whispered, her voice tight with panic. Jace didn't answer. Instead, he kept his eyes on the advancing group, his body tense and ready to fight. Somewhere beyond the locked door, she thought she could hear footsteps, maybe Grant's. But would he come back to let her out, or was this all part of something Bigger. As the inmates began to close in again, Maya realized her nightmare wasn't just being trapped in the male prison. It was being caught in a dangerous game she didn't understand, with no one on the outside even knowing she was here. And in that moment, she had no choice but to trust the one man who might be her only chance of survival. But what Maya didn't know was that Jace had his own reasons for helping her, and they might be just as dangerous as the men surrounding them. The sound of keys rattling faintly in the distance sent a wave of hope through her. But was it help coming, or trouble? She didn't have time to think as the scarred inmate lunged forward with a snarl. Maya pressed her back against the wall, her breath catching in her throat, and then the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the prison block, and Maya froze as a wave of terror crashed over her. The faint hum of the overhead lights disappeared, leaving only heavy breathing and shuffling feet echoing in the pitch-black silence. Her hands gripped the edge of the concrete wall behind her, knuckles white. She could hear whispers, low and menacing, circling her like predators in the night. "Maya, stay still," Jace's voice came from somewhere close. It was calm but firm, cutting through her panic like a blade. "Don't move. Don't make a sound." She wanted to cry out, to ask what was happening, but her throat felt tight, and no words came out. She could hear footsteps approaching, the slow, deliberate kind that made the hairs on her neck stand up. "Where is she?" growled a voice. It was the scarred inmate, his tone laced with a mix of anger and amusement. "Don't think you can hide her, Jace. She doesn't belong here." "She's not your business," Jace replied coldly. There was a sharp sound, like a chair scraping across the floor, and then a grunt. "And if you're smart, you'll back off before this gets messy." The sound of fists clenching and boots shifting echoed in the dark. Maya's chest tightened. She didn't know Jace, she didn't even know if she could trust him, but he was the only one standing between her and the crowd of dangerous men. Suddenly, a faint beam of light flickered from above as the emergency backup system powered on. The dim red glow illuminated the block in patches, casting long shadows across the walls. Maya caught her first real glimpse of Jace as he stepped forward. His jaw was clenched, his dark hair falling loosely over his forehead, and his eyes burned with a strange intensity. "You've got 5 seconds to back away," Jace said, his voice calm but edged with warning. The scarred inmate let out a low laugh. "You think you're still the boss around here? Times have changed since you were top dog, Jace. Don't think we forgot what you did." "What did he do?" Maya whispered before she could stop herself. Jace didn't look at her, but his jaw tightened. Now's not the time to ask questions. Before she could press him, the scarred man lunged. Chaos erupted. Maya let out a startled cry as inmates shoved each other, some trying to get closer, others hanging back, unsure whether to join the fight. Jace moved fast, blocking a punch and shoving his attacker backward into a metal bunk. "Stay down," he barked at Maya, but staying still felt impossible. Her mind raced as she scanned the room for an exit. The door was still locked tight, and Grant was nowhere to be seen. Why had he locked her in here? Was this some cruel joke, or was there something more sinister going on? As Jace fought off 2 men at once, Maya's foot caught on something metal, a loose piece of pipe lying on the floor. She picked it up with trembling hands, gripping it so tightly her fingers hurt. Another inmate rushed toward her, his expression wild. Without thinking, Maya swung the pipe. It connected with a loud clang against the bars of a bunk, startling him just long enough for Jace to tackle him from behind. "Good," Jace muttered, pulling Maya to her feet. "You've got some fight in you." "This isn't happening," Maya whispered, her voice shaking. "This can't be real." "It's real," Jace said flatly. "And if you want to get out alive, you need to listen to me." The fight died down as the other inmates began to retreat, their curiosity giving way to caution. Jace's reputation clearly still carried weight in this place. But Maya could feel it in the air. The calm wouldn't last. "Why are they listening to you?" she asked in a hushed voice. "Because I've been here longer than any of them," he said. "And because they know what I'm capable of." Maya's stomach turned. "What does that mean? Who are you really?" Before he could answer, a loud voice boomed over the prison intercom. "Attention inmates. Power failure in cell block C. All personnel are to remain in designated areas until further notice." Maya's eyes widened. They're leaving us in here. They don't care about us, Jace replied bitterly. You're not supposed to be here, and they're going to make sure you never leave to tell anyone about it. Maya's blood ran cold. You're saying this was planned? Think about it, Jace said, his voice low. That guard didn't just accidentally shove you in here. Someone wanted you trapped. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. But why? Who would do this to her? A distant metallic clang echoed from the far end of the block. Jace's head snapped up. They're coming back. And I don't think it's the guards this time. Maya clutched the pipe tighter. What do? We move, Jace said. Now. He grabbed her hand and led her toward the far corner of the block. There, hidden behind a stack of old mattresses, was a narrow maintenance hatch. You know this place too well, Maya said, eyeing him suspiciously. Why are you helping me? What's in this for you? Jace hesitated, his hand on the hatch. Let's just say. You remind me of someone I failed to save once. I'm not making that mistake again. Before Maya could ask more, the hatch creaked open. Jace motioned for her to crawl through. She hesitated, but the sound of footsteps pounding toward them made her decision for her. She slipped into the hatch, the air thick with dust and grime. Jace followed, pulling the cover shut behind them just as voices erupted in the block. In here. Someone shouted. Maya held her breath, her heart thudding so loud she was sure it would give them away. In the suffocating dark of the crawl space, she whispered, what happens if they find us? They won't, Jace murmured. Not if we stay quiet. But deep down, Maya knew the danger was far from over. Whoever had set her up wasn't going to stop until she was silenced for good, and Jace, mysterious, dangerous Jace, was hiding something too. For the first time, Maya wondered if escaping the prison block was only the beginning of a much bigger nightmare. The crawl space felt tighter with every breath. Maya's palms were slick with sweat as she followed Jace through the narrow passage. Dust clung to her skin, and the air smelled of rust and damp concrete. Behind them, voices echoed in the prison block, angry, frantic voices shouting her name. The sound of heavy boots clanging against metal sent chills down her spine. Why are they still looking for me? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Because they can't afford to let you leave alive, Jace said quietly. You weren't supposed to see what's really going on here. What do you mean? She pressed. What's going on? He hesitated. This isn't just a prison. It's a cover for something else. The guards run an underground ring here, illegal fights, smuggling, you name it. Anyone who stumbles onto their secrets disappears. Maya's heart sank. It made sense now. Why? Officer Grant had been so eager to lead her into the mail block. Why the door locked behind her? So they planned to make me vanish, she said, her voice cracking. They almost did, Jace replied grimly. But I've been waiting for a chance to take them down. Maya stopped crawling, staring at him in the faint red glow of the emergency lights. You're not just an inmate, are you? He shook his head slowly. I was a cop. An undercover assignment gone bad. They found out, and the warden made sure I took the fall for crimes I didn't commit. I've been stuck in here ever since, playing along until I could expose them. Maya felt a pang of disbelief. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I didn't know if I could trust you, Jace admitted. But now I don't have a choice. Before she could respond, the crawl space ended at a grated vent. Jace peered through it. We're under the guards' control room. If we can get in there, we can access the security system and get proof of everything. Maya nodded, her fear replaced by determination. Let's do it. With a grunt, Jace pushed the grate open and climbed into the room above. He reached down and pulled Maya up with surprising strength. The control room was empty, lit only by flickering monitors showing camera feeds from across the prison. Jace immediately got to work, his fingers flying across the controls. They disabled the power to cut off communications, but if I can reboot The system, I can send an alert to the outside. Maya hovered nervously by the door. Hurry, they'll realize we're gone soon. A sudden noise made them both freeze, the sound of boots pounding on the floor outside. They're here, Maya whispered. Buy me 2 minutes, Jace said. I don't know how, but before she could finish, the door handle rattled violently. Maya's eyes darted around the room until they landed on a fire extinguisher. She grabbed it and held it tight, her heart pounding. The door burst open, and Officer Grant stormed in with 2 other guards. End of the line, sweetheart, he sneered. You and your little friend are going to disappear, just like the others. Maya's grip tightened on the extinguisher. Stay away from us. Grant laughed. Or what? Before he could step closer, Maya raised the extinguisher and sprayed a blinding cloud of foam directly at his face. Grant stumbled back, cursing and wiping his eyes. Jace seized the moment, tackling the second guard while Maya swung the extinguisher at the third, catching him off guard. Now, Maya. Hit the red button. Jace shouted. Maya turned and slammed her hand down on the large emergency broadcast button. A piercing alarm echoed through the entire prison. On the monitors, she saw gates opening, lights flashing, and outside police. Vehicles pulling up to the prison gates. You did it. Maya cried, but Grant wasn't finished. Blinded and furious, he lunged at Maya, knocking the extinguisher from her hands. She fell back, her head hitting the console with a sickening thud. Stars danced in her vision as Grant raised his fist. Before he could strike, Jace grabbed him from behind, pinning him to the floor with a sharp twist of his arm. It's over, Jace growled. Sirens wailed louder as armed officers stormed the control room. Freeze, one shouted, guns raised. Grant struggled in Jace's grip. It's all lies. He's manipulating her. But Maya found her voice, even through the pain in her head. No. He's telling the truth. They've been running illegal operations here. Check the security logs, there's proof. The lead officer glanced at Jace, then nodded. We'll see about that. Moments later, Grant and the other corrupt guards were handcuffed and dragged out. Maya slumped against the wall, her body trembling from adrenaline. Jace crouched beside her, his expression softer now. You saved us, she whispered. No, Jace said. You saved yourself. The officers led them out of the prison, and for the first time that night, Maya felt the cool night air on her face. It smelled like freedom. The paramedics checked her injuries. She turned to Jace. What happens to you now? They'll clear my name, finally, he said with a faint smile. Maybe I can start over. Maya nodded. You deserve to. And you? Jace asked. After everything you've been through? I don't know, Maya admitted. But I know I'll never be the same person who walked into that prison. Maybe that's a good thing. As the sun began to rise over the horizon, Maya looked back at the prison one last time. It stood cold and silent, but she no longer felt fear. She felt stronger, and though their paths were about to part, she knew she and Jace would carry this night with them forever, a reminder that even in the darkest places, there's always a chance to fight back and reclaim your life.